welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. As you can see, I'm flying solo today. No Linda, as she is up to her neck in it all, courtesy of her near-death experience, and good luck to her. We wish her well. She'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll have a lot of catching up to do. Maybe she may even pop in today if she gets a moment, but that we'll have to wait and see. A lot going on again this week. You know, it's very clear that the planet vibration is speeding up so quickly, and along with it, our vibration and our evolution. Time is speeding up. Many people I speak to are saying, where does the day go now? What's happening? You know, I'm walking down the street and I lose track of time. I don't remember getting from A to B. Certain parts of it are just not clear anymore. So all this is going on. More deja vu is occurring. Parallel universes are now intermingling. Dimensions are crossing. And this is because the veil that separates the two worlds is now a lot thinner. Why is it a lot thinner? There are many reasons for why it's a lot thinner. But our evolution, our ability to raise our vibration into that more 5D awareness, often expressed as heaven on earth vibration, in the collective is much greater now. And so therefore a lot more things are able to happen. It's not by chance, it's not by miracle. That's the way it is. The more we raise our vibration, the better intuition, the better communication we can have with the spirit world and other life forms like the Pleiades. We often hear about the Pleiades now doing so much more for us. But it's actually down to us initially to start doing things for ourselves. And I think people are beginning to understand this and do this now. We've had a couple of years of people really just going through the motions, as it were, trying to survive, get through things. But I wonder how many of you now can begin to feel a change within yourself, first of all, because this is where it all happens. It doesn't happen externally. It can only happen from within. And when we feel that change from within, certainly of that higher vibration, well, then it goes into the collective field and creates a ripple effect. So we say, well, what about those people that just want to mosey on by and go back to the coffee culture and pay no attention to what's going on? Well, they're in the collective also, and at some level, their vibration will raise also. So generally speaking, the whole vibration of everything is rising. And so we're beginning to see a lot more healing going on now. We was at our healing circle last night, and a lot of people, experienced healers. One healer said to me, you know, she said, Mike, I'm really confused now. She said, because I do the healing and I don't get images anymore. And this particular lady was great when doing the healing of doing past life regression, see what was going on in a past. She said, I don't get that anymore. And I feel redundant. I said, well, yeah. Maybe you are redundant. They just want you to stand there and be used as this vessel. Myself included, can't meditate for long periods anymore at the moment. I understand there's a lot of noise in the universe right now, and particularly over Europe, where this conflict is going on in Central Europe. It's creating a lot of noise. And so people's attention spans are a lot thinner in certain aspects of their life. I can't meditate for more than 20 minutes at a go at the moment, and it's really a hard push to focus on just meditation rather than bringing my mind back to where it should be. But then, you know, maybe I don't need so much meditation anymore. Maybe you don't need so much meditation anymore. Maybe all you need is now a nice walk in nature to bring yourself into alignment with nature. So we also spoke about, in terms of healing, can you heal a loved one? And for me, no, I can't. and many of the other people I spoke to, we can't heal loved ones. Denise, who you probably see from the Jeanne d'Arc Spiritual Report, a friend of hers from Sri Lanka, a fabulous healer, a great healer, from generation of generation, doing miraculous healing. But he couldn't heal his mum and he couldn't heal his wife. And he had to be in their presence when they eventually passed. And this is soul destroying for somebody who can heal other people. But what is the lesson to this? We can't heal people that we are emotionally attached to because we have a block. We so desperately want to heal people that that this gets in the way. That emotional attachment gets in the way of healing, and that's why we need other people to heal us. We're also seeing the medicine of the future right now also. I've recently bought this Healy, this frequency generator, and it is doing a really, really fabulous job on healing, along with the healing that I give. And what this does, as once we run the first program, I'll go and get it because it's running at the moment, but it relies on intuition. So it's not a case of, oh, what's wrong with you? Oh, my eyes. Okay, so we run an eye program. Boom. Yes, you'll get a certain amount going with that, but it doesn't do the real job. You need intuition. How long do you run this frequency for? Or is the problem with the eyes, or is it somewhere else? And that's what we should be looking at. But this is the medicine of the future. It's Star Trek medicine, frequency and vibration. And as Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration. So before we get on to the first part of the show, which is Katerina's news, celebrity ghost stories that we're hearing about, lots of other things are going on. One thing I want to talk about is sensationalism. This lowers our frequency so much. We're seeing a lot more now on YouTube with this, wow, you must see this, bam, it's all over. And you know, pictures of celebrities that are dying or not dying. It's all clickbait, it's all sensationalism. And what this actually does is bring that low frequency into your very existence. And this is the last thing you want. You need to keep your vibration really high. And so to do this, many people, myself included, are switching off all this stuff. And we are very, very particular at what we look at. And so I advise you and ask you to consider, just for one day, switching off all the sensationalism. Also with music. It's great that you love music and you listen to music. But we have to stop the idolization of pop stars, because we don't know their energy, we don't know their frequency. We know heavy metal musicians. A lot of them are involved in Satanism and do a lot of backmasking and putting some very dark words into their music through backmasking. They also, just with their pure energy and their pure vibration and what they get up to, goes into the music. And you listen to this music and you're picking it up. Now you can, of course, you can sit back, enjoy the music and say thank you. And that's where you should leave it. I was talking to my wife this morning about Frank Sinatra with this. I love Frank Sinatra. Wonderful singer, wonderful voice, but that's where it has to end, because this guy wasn't a particularly pleasant man. You know, he's deep in mafia, and his treatment of women is not really conducive to a very beneficial way for mankind or womankind. So there's a lot going on, and Sari says, let's see what Sari has to say here. I'm switching off because I feel I'm hooked to YouTube, but haven't watched TV or tuned on the radio or read a newspaper in 10 years. Bravo. Unfortunately, at the moment, I need YouTube, but I do exactly like you do. I'm very, very selective what I watch on YouTube. No sensationalism. And it frees you. It really frees your inner self, your inner soul. and you begin to rise and you can start to shine and you can start to do more things. You're no longer trapped in all this energy, which is other people's energy and not your energy. And therefore, you've got no room to create any space in your life for things that give you joy. So just try it for one day. Switch off. Meet people of your same vibration who give you joy, who give you laughter in your life. And in the same way, you can give them laughter back. This is how we change the world. It changes from within. It doesn't change from outside. We create the outside environment. And so try it. Just try it. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you're in Australia, wake up tomorrow morning and make your first thought be a positive thought and see how your world changes. Sarah says, it really does. I don't know about CV19 till my kids yelled at me about a mask. Well, here's the thing with all of this. This is how we change the world. Austria is dragging its feet on all of this. In Vienna, we still have to wear masks on buses and trains, but the rest of Austria doesn't. So we have this stupid idea that when I go for a German lesson, which is outside the border of Vienna, suddenly it all stops and everyone can take their mask off because we're outside of Vienna. The point is that many people said no to this ridiculous notion. No matter what the law was, many people said no. And so while it's still in law, I've got on Straßenbahns and trains where the police get on and they're not wearing masks. Nobody is doing anything because we are not giving it the energy it needs to be upheld in law. It might be there in law on paper, but nobody is supporting it energetically, and that comes from within. So these are the way we can make changes from within. And we must also respect other people's position. If they wish to wear a mask and they wish to have medical interventions that they choose, we must respect that. And it's a time of coming together. So before we move on, I just want to say, if you've never seen the Jeanne d'Arc Spiritual Report, please go over to YouTube. Oops, I've lost myself a little bit there. Please do go over to YouTube and put in Jeanne Spiritual Report, or you'll find it on my channel anyway. And so this week we got some very interesting questions on the Jeanne d'Arc Spiritual Report, and they were about Jeanne. They're very high vibrational stuff, and we really felt the energy of Jeanne when these questions were asked. One of them was, did you feel the concept of God was changing as you were experiencing the visions and messages? Well, wait to see you hear the answer. Was your mind and heart expanding? Did God still seem to be vengeful and judgmental? Or were you realizing he is not what the Catholic religion portrayed him to be? These were fabulous questions with fabulous answers. And another question was, are the Nazca lines in Peru connected in any way to visitations from higher beings with the native people living there at the time? So please do go over to my YouTube channel, Jeanne Spiritual Report. I'm actually trying to find a way to change that to Jeanne d'Arc Spiritual Report. But there you are. That's what's going on at the moment. So let's, without further delay, get on the show. Let's go to the Open Door News with Katerina and see what ghostly goings on are with our celebrities.
Very nice.
So, Katerina, what we got first on the list today, it's a Hollywood type of day. It's Vanessa Williams. What's she been up to?
Yes, she had a haunting in a home that she moved into in the hometown where she grew up in Westchester, New York. She bought a home from people that were actually getting a divorce, so they were in a hurry to sell the home. Well, she gets there, lo and behold, she gets divorced. And all this phenomena started happening. Things like light bulbs literally exploding when she'd walk into a room. She felt like she was being watched at night while she slept. And as it turns out, when a medium, excuse me, came to her home, what they discovered was that there was a boy who played football not in that house, but in the neighborhood, and succumbed to his injuries at around 14 years old. And then not only that, there was work being done on the block in the 1920s, and an electrician who was up on a pole perished because he got a high voltage of electricity by accident. So he perished pretty much in her backyard, and they determined that it was mostly him in the house causing all these issues.
Wow.
It's interesting that you say that, because he had a near-death experience that changed his perspective and how he was. He even admits to people calling him a bad guy to his face before this happened. When he was about 25 years old, he was riding in a Jeep, and he saw the dog, peeking out the window a little bit too much, so he pulled him in. In doing so, his Jeep ran up a tree. So he wound up in a hospital, and, they did whatever they could to help him, but he wasn't doing so well. Like, his short-term memory was being affected. He wasn't looking so great. It had really, done its damage to him. And what happened is one day, he said that he sees these two people dressed in like old-timey clothing, and they were by his bedside, and he asked, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Romania." And they said, "You'll be okay. Just take these two drugs, which are kind of obscure and illegal, no less." And one, they said, was like kind of like a fountain of youth type drug, right. And the other one is to help with short-term memory. So once he got out, he was like, "I might as well try it." So he found a pharmacist, and he supplied him with the drugs. And as we all, could see by his illustrious career, that he, of course, had done, well on these. Well, when he spoke to a medium one day, he confessed to her that he goes, "Nobody saw these two people. I'm the only person that saw them." And he goes, "And how did I know of these drugs?" He's not a doctor or pharmacist. And the medium confirmed that it was a visitation.
Enough digression. Lou Gossett Jr. Now, what's this guy been up to? I must admit, I've heard of the name, but I don't think I've ever seen him anything.
He won an Oscar, I believe it was for The Gentleman supporting actor.
Right.
I believe that was the movie.
Right.
Or yes, I believe that was the movie. Sorry.
and Iron Eagle. He was in Iron Eagle. I can see.
He's got a huge body of work. But yeah, he's also won an Oscar. But he was doing this film called A Gathering of Old Men. And what happened was he was in his hotel room one night, and the film happened to be about slavery and sugar canes in Louisiana, right. Sugar fields in Louisiana. So he was in his hotel room one night, and he hears the rustling of chains, the smell of perspiration, and people almost like fighting over him. And he saw full body apparitions. And all of a sudden he felt the presence of his grandmother, and that's what saved him, he believes. So he spoke to a medium, they visited the property, and the actual hotel even touched one of the sugar cane fields. Right. And what they were able to decipher was, because in the movie he was playing a man that was helping a slave boy stay out of jail. And so he was going to confess and, not rat the slave boy out, but say that he did the crime that was going to land him in jail. Yeah. So what happened was these apparitions were slaves themselves during the time of slavery, and they were trying to actually help them by saying don't confess, because they rioted and were killed for rioting.
Right.
You know, so his grandmother, who interestingly enough was also born into slavery, you know, was there to in fact help him out.
And so the full conversation that I had with Katerina can be found on YouTube probably tomorrow. I've got 2 others that I've got to put up. We decided to do a short version and just get to the nuts and bolts of it all, and then put a longer version for those that just want to hear a little bit more conversation. So anyway, let's get straight on with our show. And the first one I've got up here is a little bit different from the normal poltergeist activity and stuff like this. What I've got here is one of these revival episodes here where they do a lot of casting out and very biblical type of place is the only way you can really describe it. And so what we see here, it's very, very, very clear that this woman has an entity with her. And just look how smugly the entity in this woman walks up to the minister, so cocksure of itself that it's going to remain in the body of this woman. Absolutely so smug. Well, it's not a spoiler alert because you know that entity was gone. But it's how it was done. It's really fascinating. And then I'll just give a few more comments on this after, and I look forward to your comments on this. So let's run this. There's nothing scary here, by the way. Don't think that for 1 minute. Let's just have a look at this and see what you all think.
It's not necessarily scary. Who are you? It's telling me that you're more powerful than Jesus. You're better than him. This girl goes to the ground, you'll be no longer found. Angels, I pray you come and help me. I command you to talk. How long have you been there? How long have you been in there?
Generations!
How did you get in? I don't think this woman wants you there. I don't think she wants you. She doesn't, does she? She prays, don't she? And you know God's going to use her. You know God's going to use her to destroy your kingdom. Listen to me, the wise man. If she don't want you there, you servant, then guess what? You will leave alive. You will not destroy her. You will not shipwreck her. You will not stop her. Walk your feet right here. You will submit to King Jesus today. You believe this girl wants you for a while. If Jesus is truly the supreme authority and power to your knees, now, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Good. Even demons tremble and obey. You submit yourself to Jesus Christ of Nazareth and come out of this woman's body now! Now! You and your friends, I want all of them. I want violence, witchcraft, rebellion, rejection, suicidal thoughts, death. I want all of it out now. Come out. Bringing the wrong type of people around this woman to take advantage of her. Come out of her body. I break stubbornness. I break all pride. I break it all. In the mighty name of Jesus. Mighty name of Jesus. I break the scales of the Bible. I bring the shield down. I bring the helmet off. I bring the sword down. The boots. All of your armor in the life. And I bring it down now. Now go on and come off with her. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. The Bible is truth. The Bible is truth. I move the life of the Spirit now. Come on. Come on. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Leviathan is stubborn. Raise your hands. Give praise to Jesus. Raise your hands in the mighty name of Jesus. Raise your hands. The left arm and the right arm. Raise it. Good. I pray the power of the Holy Ghost come over it. Now, off. The woman is worshiping the king. That's her right. Leviathan always wants to put up a fight. When this girl goes to the ground, you will be no longer fair. You will come all the way out of there. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, Leviathan, submit yourself to Christ. Out of her body. So you're telling me you're more powerful than Jesus? You're telling me that you're more powerful than Jesus? You're better than him. But come out of her body now. I'm not fighting you. I said leave. I said leave. Angels, I pray you come and help me.
So my name's Tarian. I came to the revival event yesterday and it was amazing. It was explosive. I came back tonight expectant and hungry and just open and wanting whatever God had for me. Like my prayer recently is, God, I don't want my life, I want yours, I want what you have for me, God. Yeah, I just felt the power of God touch me and there was a lot of blanks and my voice is nearly gone, but yeah, I just remember being at the front with Daniel. The power of God hit me and I fell to the floor. I was out for a little bit. Rose and just know that he had freed me, that my life had changed forever. Like glory to God, he is so good. Just praise you, Jesus, I love you.
So there you go. What do you think? Notice how she felt of the floor. I mean, she felt of the floor. There wasn't a controlled collapse. In my opinion, something happened there. That something left her. Whatever it was. She collapsed. And notice everything else going on around. The people behind healing. People behind other people ready to catch them. And children there. So Hollywood depicts also that, you know, as in the movie The Exorcist, that the spirit left the body, went into the priest and out the window they went, and so, you know, was going to take someone with them. It doesn't work like that. Otherwise it wouldn't be a safe environment for vulnerable people, young people who are sometimes vulnerable. The question was asked actually yesterday in the Jeanne d'Arc Spiritual Report. Where do these energies go when they leave a body, a possession, if you will? And there were many things that they do. Some of them go into the ether and transform themselves into light because they're not really evil. They're just completely lost. Others decide they're going to hang about the earth plane and be a nuisance to everyone and everything. And others will try and find another body to go into. So, as you can imagine, it isn't always just one way. And it isn't always how we see on the television. I know I'm going on a little bit about TV today, but it's so important to start thinking for ourselves. And if something doesn't ring true, then to question it. And if something doesn't feel right, to question it. In fact, question everything you've been taught about anything and start thinking from the heart, and you'll start to get answers. And you will be able to do all these things that this guy did. We had a rescue circle many years ago with the table tipping, and we had some characters coming there that didn't want to get out. I did many house clearings years ago where doors were slamming, and I was in basements, in a double basement. It was a theatre in the West End, and I had to really jam the door because this entity wanted to scare the bejesus out of me, which it kind of did. I don't mind admitting it isn't a nice feeling, but when you have that confidence and that experience to know that, you know, this is ending and you're not going to disturb the people anymore, then it ends. But if you have this fear vibration, then you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. Here we say, Jerry Mazinsk has done a lot of work on this subject. I actually haven't heard of this guy, but I'm going to look that up now. I'm really fascinated by this kind of work, and we're seeing more and more and more of it. So, of course, the Catholic Church will poo-hoo this type of thing. Of course it will. There's the fabulous Toronto blessing that the Catholic Church really doesn't like. The Toronto blessing, when people getting healed start bursting out with laughter and hysterical laughter. We had this at one of our healing sessions. One lady just started laughing uncontrollably. Well, when you know her history, and she hasn't had much fun in her life, and all of a sudden this healing power is coming through, yes, she started to laugh uncontrollably and actually raised the vibration of the whole place. So that's the Toronto blessing, which I think the Catholic Church doesn't really want anything to do. So what I'm saying is that, you know, I was brought up a Catholic, and as George Carling said, till I reached the age of reason. And I've nothing against Catholicism or Christianity, nothing at all against it. I've just found that my God is not a God of brimstone and fire, which unfortunately still exists in certain aspects of Christianity, certainly in the Opus Dei movement, which I think is quite cultish. Anyway, look, let's move on. We're doing good time. We've got the fascinating story now of Dolores' reincarnation. Another one of those with a great amount of evidence. What is interesting about this one is, as you will see, is that the person, if you like, the altered ego or the soul part of the other incarnation didn't understand that she was dead. She thought she was still alive. And there was many other goings on here in this. I won't say too much because we'll talk about it after. That makes this so fascinating and quite different from any other reincarnation story. But the fact that the other soul part didn't know that she was dead, to me, is very interesting. So let's run over and look at this. And again, let's discuss this. Give me your thoughts.
The following is another amazing reincarnation story about a woman called Dolores J, who has regressed to a past life claiming to be a girl called Gretchen Gottlieb, who lived in late 19th century Germany. Her husband, Carol J, was a Methodist minister from Ohio, who initially practiced hypnosis in the 1950s to help people with chronic pain. Then in the 1960s, he started experimenting with past life regression. His wife Dolores started getting back pain, so on May the 10th, 1970, he conducted a hypnosis session to help relieve her pain. Under hypnosis, he asked his wife, "Does your back hurt?" And she replied in German, "Nein," meaning no in German. Then on May the 13th, 1970, he again hypnotized his wife, who again replied in German, and this time just said, "Ich bin Gretchen," which means I am Gretchen. Over the next few months, he held further hypnotic sessions with a woman who called herself Gretchen, repeatedly came through speaking only in German. After 10 further sessions, Jay invited a German speaker to participate in a session, where the translator proceeded to have a conversation with Gretchen in German. On April the 23rd, 1971, his wife wrote 40 words in German during the manifestation of Gretchen. It is interesting to note that when Dolores J wrote as Gretchen, her handwriting was totally different. It is also interesting to note that Dolores had never learned German and in her current life could not speak or even understand German. September 2nd, 1971, Professor Ian Stevenson, the acclaimed Canadian psychiatrist at the University of Virginia School of Medicine, travelled to Mount Orab, Ohio to participate in a session with Dolores J. It just so happened that Professor Stevenson could speak German and was able to converse with Dolores in German. Professor Stevenson would later include other German-speaking individuals to participate in the sessions. Under hypnosis, Gretchen came through and was able to have conversations with the German-speaking individuals. keeping in mind that Dolores J could not speak a word of German. On March 25, 1974, Dolores J was invited to Professor Stevenson's laboratory at the University of Virginia, where Professor Stevenson and a colleague by the name of Elizabeth Day were able to have a conversation with Gretchen in German. Over a period of time spanning 19 sessions, where 6 of the sessions were recorded, and in that time, Dolores, or Gretchen, spoke 237 different German words and used 120 specific words before anyone else had said them, which showed that she was not just mimicking conversation. In one of the tape sessions, Gretchen introduced 96 German words that were not previously spoken by the interviewers, and 21 of which neither Gretchen or the interviewers had ever spoken before. Gretchen could converse in German in an interactive way. She could both understand and respond in German. Gretchen rarely spoke automatically and replied politely to questions in a polite manner. She said her full name was Gretchen Gottlieb, and she lived with a father whose name was Hermann, who was elderly with white hair. She sniggered when describing her father on a horse. Unfortunately, her mother Erika had died when Gretchen was only 8 years old, and she had no siblings. Her father was also the mayor of Eberswalde, Germany, where they lived, and they resided on the street called Birkenstrasse. Eberwald was a small town with a bakery, butcher shop, church and college. There was a forest and a river outside the town. Gretchen said that she died at the age of 16. In some sessions, Gretchen thought that she was speaking to interviewers on the street near her home and would plead to the interviewers that she had to go home as her father would be upset if he found she was talking to strangers. Although Gretchen had told them that she died at the age of 16, it appears that she did not realise that she was actually dead. It seems that a soul can retain a past life personality intact. On February the 5th, 1974, Professor Stevenson had Dolores undergo a lie detector test, which she passed. In the test, she vouched that she had not learned or known German prior to Gretchen emerging under hypnosis. For further evidence that Dolores J was not faking it under hypnosis, Professor Stevenson even interviewed Dolores' parents, Boyd and Laura Skidmore, and her sister Mary, who all signed statements that no one in the family knew or spoke German, and that there were no German-speaking individuals in the area where she'd grown up. In order to confirm what Gretchen Gottlieb had said, Professor Stevenson looked for further evidence and found that the town of Eberswalde did exist, but there was no mayor by the name of Gottlieb on record. Her husband said that Dolores was bewildered and a little scared by her ability to speak German. Carol J. also struggled with his wife's past life regressions, which made his life difficult as a Methodist Christian minister. On January the 20th, 1975, the Washington Post published a newspaper article about Dolores J.'s experience. When the local church community read the article, some accused him of dealing with the devil. Overall, Professor Ian Stevenson believed it to be a legitimate reincarnation case, and if reincarnation is indeed accepted as an explanation, it appears that the ability to speak a different language can be conveyed from one incarnation to another.
So, very interesting. Before we just talk about this topic, I just want to mention here what a farmer says, which is the healing power and the people feel this, but it's also an event and people are also feeling wanting to be part of it, kind of like playing a part. Can't take that feeling fully away. Yeah, I mean, this is why healing in the super churches works so well, so wonderfully. Forget how corrupt the ministers are. The fact is, you've got 5,000 people there willing someone to walk and get off their wheelchair is very powerful. My friend, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, just come back, she's in Colombia at the moment, a Joe Dispenza conference, but she was in a Joe Dispenza workshop in London, and the healing took place at the end of the workshop. Very smart move, because all the energy is building up towards the end. And this guy did indeed get off his wheelchair, and to this day is still off his wheelchair. So the energy can sustain also. Back to Greta here, or Dolores. Interesting. Could many people be misdiagnosed with schizophrenia, and it's actually the other part of their soul speaking? I'm sure there are some schizophrenics who hear voices that are exactly schizophrenic. But I wonder how many are misdiagnosed because part of their soul doesn't realize that they're dead. It's again, and this is what I was saying about we shouldn't necessarily take for granted what esteemed or learned people say, because their way of learning, their functioning is a very narrow bandwidth of information in order to fulfill a protocol, as it were. It's only when you expand your consciousness and you actually start to look outside of the confines of how you're taught can we see another solution or another explanation. So that's why I say, are many people diagnosed with schizophrenia actually schizophrenic, or is there part of their soul there still reliving a life that they once were and don't realize that they've actually passed? As you can see, there's more to humanity and mankind than just eating, pooping, going to work and paying bills. So we've got a very exciting time to look forward to when it comes our time to go back home. So this lady, no one spoke German in the household. Nobody in the town spoke German, and she was speaking very precise German. She says she was amazed that she could speak German. I'm amazed she could speak German, because it ain't an easy language to speak, let me tell you. But anyway, moving on, as we're getting towards the end of the show. Trisha's Angel, we showed this one about 2 years ago as well. And here we're talking about divine healing, spontaneous remission, and so on and so forth. Let's run this. And maybe some of you have experienced something similar to this yourselves. But anyway, yeah, divine intervention, or is it just pure willpower? Let's take a look at this and see what you all think after.
Pace. He had the speed and the power. He just chose not to use it most of the time.
But that day, as Trisha and Sly headed out on Bridle Path, something spooked the horse and he took off running. The power and speed of this ex-racehorse was overwhelming. All of Sly's 1,200 pounds fell on top of Trisha. They both laid there stunned.
And for a horse to get up, they can't just stand up. So he had to use his full weight and push down on that hip and that leg and push himself up using my body as a kind of a cushion against the ground.
Once the frightened horse was on his feet, Trisha was able to get up, and to her amazement, she didn't seem seriously injured. A little more than a week later, Trisha was taking a bath.
I remember going to stand up and not making it. I remember landing with a thump in the bathroom, and that's it.
Trisha! I went in and I found her slumped across the side of the tub. And I tried to get her up. There was no response. She wasn't answering me. You know, I didn't know how she'd hit her head, exactly what had happened to her.
Trisha finally came to, but she developed excruciating pain in her left leg and lower back, pain that would not go away. After weeks of doctor visits with no answers, she was rushed to the hospital. And the pain never stops. Eating and sleeping become impossible. Even large doses of painkillers cannot provide relief. The medical prognosis is grim.
These patients were basically left with living on strong pain medications for the rest of their lives. And this is why there's a rather high suicide rate amongst RSD patients.
According to Dr. Wells, Trisha had the worst case of RSD she'd ever seen. This is actual footage of Trisha in her hospital bed. Not even a powerful painkiller like morphine was able to stop her nerves from sending pain signals when no pain should be felt.
It was horrible.
Meanwhile, Trisha's team of doctors were running out of answers.
They had tried everything possible, including running anesthetic directly into her spinal cord.
And then one night, at about 3 a.m., with her body once again contorting in anguish, Trisha begins to pray.
I wasn't praying, oh God, please make me better. I think I was just praying in general.
Suddenly, the pain began to disappear, slowly and steadily, as a warm, comforting feeling swept over her body.
It slipped down my body and slipped and slipped and slipped farther down. And I felt it go all the way down my left leg, and then I felt it exit through my toes. And there's no way to describe it other than that. It exited, it left my body. And I heard very, very quietly, almost to the point where I couldn't hear it, "Get up." And at that point, I really thought I had flipped. I didn't think there was any way that this was truly happening. And so I prayed, if that's you, God, I need more confirmation. And I heard louder and more clearly and much more authoritatively, "Get up."
But how could she? She had not sat up or walked for over 3 months.
And I set my feet down on the ground, and when I set my feet down on the ground, I didn't have any pain anywhere in my body. My whole body was pain-free.
She stood there for a moment, not daring to believe, and then walked out of her room and down the hall. The night shift nurse on duty was the first to see Trisha walking. She was in total shock.
It's amazing to me that she didn't just pass out and fall on the floor, because she just looked like she'd seen a ghost. She couldn't believe it.
What are you doing out of bed?
She knew that I shouldn't be able to do that. She knew that the RSD should still be controlling my life, and it obviously wasn't.
Dr. Wells reviewed Trisha's x-rays before and after her recovery and discovered that not one trace of what had caused her condition remained.
In my experience, in my knowledge of RSD, there has never been a spontaneous remission. In other words, just symptoms vanishing like that.
Doctors cautioned Trisha that the syndrome could return as mysteriously as it disappeared. But today, 5 years after its onset, Trisha is living a full, active life and has absolutely no recurring symptoms.
Every morning when I wake up, I can't take for granted that I'm able to get up and walk out of that bed, because I know what it's like not to be able to do that. I was given such a gift that I don't understand why I would be chosen to give that gift. I'm not perfect, I'm not holy, I'm not some saint, I'm just the everyday person. And it's amazing to me that God would choose to touch my life in such a dramatic way, to choose to speak to me.
So, yes, some lovely comments there. Thank you for that. So what's this all about? Is it because of total submission that allowed the flow of the healing energy to take place? Was it the inner voice that she was hearing? Or was it God's voice? Or what's the difference? I know I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit with you all, but I think it's important to ask these questions and stretch the mind, stretch the imagination. And yet, on the other hand, does it matter if it's an inner voice or if the inner voice is God? Does it matter if it's submission and allowing and flowing? Do we need to know? It just happens. And that's it. That's all we need to know and be thankful for. So, yeah, many questions. And what I would say to all of this is, if you're experiencing something like this, just simply try and allow. You can say prayer, whatever prayer means to you. Actually, we got some issues here with stream unavailable, stream not available. I see it may have come down temporarily in whatever part of the world you're living in. It may have not permitted it to happen. So So Mike lost connection. Well, I think we're back. We should be back now because I'm still showing people up here on the board. So I'll continue anyway. Suspended for policy violations. I guess, you know, I think that's going to be about the end of my term on YouTube for more policy violations. I think I'm going to keep going because I think some of you can still hear this. And what we do is I'll do no more talking and I'll just close the show with Mary's NDE. Let's see if any of you pick this up and see what you have to say about Mary's NDE.
And during that time, when they were getting me ready and talking to Ron, I saw a white light, and it was in the upper right-hand corner of my room. You know, I had been in ICUs, I had been in surgeries as a nurse. I mean, I had worked in the hospital a good portion of my life. And this light was not like anything else I had ever seen. It was a bit ethereal. It was a kind of a different color. It was luminescent, but it also was soft. And as I looked at it, I thought, what is that? Is that a tunnel? Because it almost has like that round, the corrugated side almost, as if it would be an encapsulated tunnel. And then as I looked at it, I thought, well, I'm not impressed because it's so little. And then all of a sudden, I am moving into it. And it's quite odd the way your body moves into it, because you're not lying down flat. You're kind of upright, and your eyes work in a way that, I know this sounds strange and even corny, but your eyes can see behind you. I could see and sense that my body, the shell, was on the bed. But what was unbelievable to me is I believe my consciousness, which is very important to me, was with me. I think it was part of my soul, because I was able to see what people were wearing. And I could see Ron. Ron was there. He had his head in his hands. He was crying. And he was looking at this document. It was a surgical consent. And all of a sudden, I left that. I didn't care about it. I was so focused on what I was seeing. And I came to this luminescent, like a light pinkish room. And I got the sense that there were no walls. It was just mass. It was an opening, if you will. And I wasn't the only person going through it. It felt like there were other people. And I'm referring to felt a lot because it doesn't make sense. But you sort of see with your senses too. Everything is with you as one. And I felt like I knew that place. Like I had felt that place before. I had been there. And all of a sudden, I didn't see the exact action, how it happened. God was holding me. And he said, it's not your time. And I was so disappointed because I wanted to be there with him. And very different from what I ever expected. The love was not human. And it was comparing it like to human love would be plastic, like a credit card, whereas this was really deep. And I said, I can't stay, but why not? And I started telling God all of my accolades. I gave free cancer care. I would come up at night when people were dying. I would pray for people. I tried to be a good mother. I tried to be a good wife. I had been a good worker. Every positive thing I could think about myself, which is just so awful and now, or arrogant or whatever. I tried to tell him, and he said, let me ask you one thing. Have you ever loved anyone the way you've been loved here? And I said, no, that's impossible. I am a human, just to remind God of my humanness. And then the sensation was a closer hold from God, and he said, you can do better. And I don't remember leaving that space, but I woke up to Ron like shaking me because he felt like I was unconscious and saying, Mary, we have to make this decision together. Like, they have to open your brain and they have to clip this vessel, and you might never be the same. You might not be able to run, Mary, or even walk. And I'm a runner. I was a runner. I was running 50 and 100 milers. Running was my life. And he said, and your personality might change completely. I need you to tell me it's okay. And I said, it's okay. I'm not going to die anyway. And Ron said, well, I hope not, Mary. I think if you pray you're close to God, I think you'll be okay. And I said, I just talked to God, and it's not my time, Ron. And I woke up after the surgery, and I was upset. I was depressed. In fact, I was depressed that I was back here for several months after. And what I live with every day now is I live with this incredible memory, or whatever's been branded on me. And I ask myself, am I doing enough? Am I standing up for God's goodness? Am I being conscientious with what He gave me? Am I loving others the way He told me to practice loving more? And the answer is always, I'm trying, but it's very difficult. I will tell you one thing. I think I'm a better therapist. And I think I'm a better therapist because I judge less. And I think compassion is the most important gift we give each other. And just get out of this mindset of who's right and who's wrong. I mean,
Yeah, it's very freeing getting out of that mindset on who's right and who's wrong. It's also speaking to some people, you know, who can't forgive what their partner done when they split up. And I say, well, in time, you'll need time, but learn to forgive, because it doesn't exonerate what happened, but it frees you. And that's the most important thing. And I do find that certainly myself, I have to guard myself from judgment, because it's so easy to fall into judgment, you know. But I think if we get in the right vibration, we get in with the right crowd, we can start to diminish judgment that's ever present in our society. And it's there. Look, you only have to look at the news. There is no good news anywhere. Politicians don't give you any good news anywhere. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to keep your vibration low, divide you with your fellow man, and just keep you in that state of angst. And if you do have the courage to refrain from being judgmental, then your life will become better for it. It really will. Now look, before we wrap this up, I want to tell you, I've brought it here. This is my healing. This is the medicine of the future. There's a little bit more to it than, as you can see, it's running. I'm running it for a cat right now. Not my cat, but someone else's cat. There's more to it than just clicking a program and saying, oh, there's something wrong with your eyes, so we do an eye program, boom. Here, I don't know if you can see. I'll have to put it back a little bit. Maybe you can't. There you are, look. It's running. There you can see it run. It's a biogenetic boost. And I've got it running for 26 minutes. It needs a lot of intuition. And if you're, just because there's something wrong with the eyes, you don't necessarily put an eye program on. You might find that there's something wrong, I don't know, with the knees or the liver, which will cure, heal, and it will affect the eyes, and the eyes heal up. You know how this all works. Many of you will know how this all works. So, and along with this, you do the healing. You do the energetic healing, which I'll do after this show finishes for about 10-15 minutes, and we see what transpires from it. This is the medicine of the future. Where did I get this from, James? I went to the Healy shop online, and I bought it there. It doesn't take long to learn. It is expensive, I've got to say, and I would advise you wait till they do a special offer. This is the Healy Resonance app that I got, so I can do remote healing with it. The normal price is €1,500. I got it at half price. But there's another cheaper version that you can use just for yourself. It's the same thing, and you clip it on, and you can only heal yourself, or you can heal a pet, but you've got to have it right next to the pet. This is actually working, and I'm working with a cat in Belgium right now. So, because there's other things you have to do with this program before you just switch it on. You have to connect and synchronize with the cat, so you need a picture of the cat and so on and so forth. It's fascinating. We're having good results with this. So, but it isn't the be all and end all. It really needs us also to do our part. Yeah, have a look online, have a look on YouTube, put in Healy, Healy, and have a look at this wonderful technology that is now coming into play. So look, that's all we got time for. Any link? I'll find a link, James. I haven't got it with me, and I'll put it up on YouTube. But there's much information there. You can type in Healy Resonance, and there's many tutorials from the beginning to the end. Well worth it, I think. Very good value for money. So anyway, look, that's all we got time for. I've got to do 1,000 things before I go out today, and I look forward to your company next week. In the meantime, please, 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 please keep your vibration high. Please avoid the doomers and the gloomers. It's not their fault, but you need to keep with people that will allow your inner soul to breathe and find joy in life. And you have to do nothing else to create the ripple effect. So until next week, God bless you all. Have a great week. Keep it high, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye for now.